Sick by Dahn Hiuni, directed by John Coppola. The place, New York City, Dallas, and Honolulu. The time, 1972 to 1973. Act 1, Scene 1. Outside a Greenwich Village cinema, late show. The marquee reads the band. When and Barbara exit the theater.
That was just awful.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
Yeah, how could he have written something like that? First big gay movie, and this is what people have to see?
That's not what you do at parties, is it?
I mean, there's always a Nelly Queen. I really don't mind all the swishing and marry this and marry that. It's the self-loathing thing that's so fucking maddening. It was the same on Broadway. All that recreational bitchiness, just cringeworthy.
He's just writing what he knows.
Why? Why? Are all our friends bitter and catty and self-hating? No, they're not. They're smart and cool and tuned in. Just this is Hollywood. The big time. A freak show like this just reconfirms everything they think of us. Maybe it was better off when it was veiled.
Veiled?
Now, all the major American playwrights are gay and they're all writing in code, substituting women and straights with what are really all gay characters.
Blanche Dubois is really Bruce?
Yep.
So this is a fully gay Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf without Elizabeth Taylor?
Exactly. We're all just a bunch of angry, tormented, vengeful queens. And alcoholics. Did you see all that goddamn drinking?
Yeah, it really made me want to drink. Oh, Virginia Woolf just had as much drinking and self-hating, I might add.
Yeah, well, when they do it, it's dramatic. When we do it, it's because we're sick.
Well, you're in the biz. Talk to your people at Variety. Tell them to make something better.
Honey, it's a newspaper, not a studio.
I mean, talk to some agents and producer folk and take revenge in your reviews.
No, it may be time.
What does that title mean anyway? What band?
It's a line from A Star is Born. James Mason tells Judy Garland that she's just been singing for herself and the boys in the band.
Insularity.
Yeah. Oh, and the constant word, homosexual. Gee, they must have said it 1,000 times. It's German, you know, German pseudoscience like Mengele.
Well, it's better than invert or faggot.
I like gay.
I like dyke.
Dyke.
Invert.
Lesbo.
Degenerate. Pansy.
There aren't as many names for lesbians.
No, there aren't. Fruitcake.
No, it's just, this was such a great opportunity. Imagine a young person going to see this film and asking themselves, is this what's in store for me, this sad and pathetic life? I'd be completely mortified.
Well, it was written before the riots. Soon there'll be young people writing about the movement, about liberation and pride, or maybe even just a love story.
Oh, that'd be something.
Why don't you write something?
Maybe I will.
Hey, at least they make movies about you guys. Where's my lesbian movie? I tell you, I'm getting a little tired of the children's hour. That creepy girl.
What can we do, honey?
People have been boycotting the movie.
No, I mean more. Something from within, like a gay writers' consciousness group in Hollywood or something.
That's a great idea. What? Why don't we suggest a group for here too, at our next meeting?
Yeah, show who we really are without all the pathology. You went to the Shrink Convention in DC, no? How'd that go?
Well, they'd say, you're sick. We'd say, no, we don't think we're sick. They'd say, no, that's your sickness talking.
Arrogant bastards. What about the San Francisco one?
Better. I did the Gay is Good panel. We had a kissing booth. I had quite the case of chapped lips.
Ooh, don't catch anything. So when's the next conference?
It's coming up in the spring.
We need to target the media, but we also need to stay on the shrinks.
Why don't you come this time?
Maybe, but no more drag queens just barging into APA sessions and shooting glitter bombs. We have to demand more.
Well, if we can take on NYPD, we can take on the shrinks.
A Judy Garland song rises and fades. Lights fade. Scene 2. Gay Activist Alliance Office, the next afternoon. Ron is seated at a desk manning the volunteer helpline. Adjacent is a small counseling area with comfortable armchairs. It is cordoned off for privacy. The phone rings. Ron answers.
Gay Activist Alliance, can I help you? Yes. City or state? Hold on, let me get that for you. You ready? It's 670-5428. Sure, you're welcome. GAA, can I help you? Spiritual. What do you mean, like religious? Let me look here. We have recovering gay Catholics on Thursday nights, Yeshiva Day School gay alumni, probably not for you. There's Gay Est. It's like a new age self-help group? I don't know, ma'am. Oh, sir, sorry. Well, it is a very personal thing, isn't it? You could do that. All right. Bye. Nope, I don't need to be blessed, but thank you. Carol, it's Ron from Variety. Can you put Jerry on the line? Jerry, it's Ron. Ron Gold. Listen, I saw your little movie last night. Well, you were a part of it. Did I like it? No, I didn't like it. In fact, I thought it was terrible. It gave me a fucking migraine. Why? Jerry, why would you involve yourself in something like this? You know, like what? People believe what... Am I a sad drunk? Do I hate myself and all my friends? No, I don't. And I don't think you do either. So why? I know it's a play. I don't care if it won a fucking Pulitzer. You know this movie's already being boycotted. I am not censoring you, you mindless twit. Don't you understand? No. Now is the time for change. Well, you're a traitor to your people. Stereotypes. Why don't you just make a 2-hour movie of Jews counting money?
A client tentatively steps into the office.
No, you're a schmuck. I'm an angry fag. Jerry, don't underestimate me. Wait till this comes to TV. I'm going to give you the worst review ever. Yes, in TV Guide. People read TV Guide, asshole. You're going to run back to Pennsylvania. You better hide with the Amish, Jerry, because we're going to find you in a big pile of buggy horse shit, and we're going to point the finger at you. Fucking theater queens. Hi, I'm Ron.
Is this a bad time?
No, please, sit down. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name. I mean, you don't have to tell me your real name.
It's Dalton.
Well, hi, Dalton. That's a fancy name. Welcome to the Gay Activist Alliance.
Are you a shrink?
Oh, no, Jesus, no. I'm a writer. I just volunteer here once a week. So, what's going on, Dalton?
I think I have crabs.
Oh, okay. Well, that's easily taken care of.
It's awful.
I know. It's not the end of the world.
It's not the first time. But this time I kind of made the mistake of going to my family doctor. I asked him not to tell my mom, but he ended up calling her anyway. She freaked out. She asked me if I was a prostitute.
Are you? I mean, it's okay if you are.
No, I mean, one time I pretended to be. I asked this guy for a tenner and he gave it to me. I just bought an ice cream after. But no, I'm not a hustler.
Well, good.
But I do go to the park and the piers.
Oh, you're a bit young, no?
I guess, but it's what I want.
Okay.
Well, that's where I got the crabs. Anyway, I came home one night late and my mom was doing the dishes. And I guess she could smell that I'd been somewhere bad. She started crying. It was awful. The next morning, she told me she was taking me to a psychiatrist. She threatened to take me out of school if I didn't stop.
And your dad?
He's out of the picture.
Dalton, do you have any brothers or sisters?
No, just me. I have cousins. Anyway, I went to the psychiatrist. He was so mean. He said that if I didn't stop going with men, that I'd be a drug addict or a drunk or both, or that I would end up in jail or living on the streets. He wouldn't even look at me. And he said that no one would ever love me or want to be with me. He said I was very sick, and that if I didn't try to cure myself, they'd have to do electric shock.
Ron moves to sit beside him and holds him.
Hey, no one's doing any electric shock, Dalton. Dalton, look at me. No one's going to touch you. Kid, you're perfect the way you are.
You're nice. But that's not the worst of it. I'm in love with my best friend. From school. I mean, really in love, but he doesn't know. He's straight. And I know he loves me, but not like that. And it's torture. Just so unfair.
Dalton, listen to me. You're a smart guy, I can tell. You're going to be okay. I know it doesn't help much now, but most of us have been through this. And it's incredibly painful. But you will get through the pain. And one day, somebody's going to love you. Very, very much. I promise you, all this pain will just be a memory. I know you don't believe me, but it will. What's his name?
Jack.
Jack. Sounds like a fox.
He is. I think I'd like to be a writer too.
Music. Lights fade. Scene 3. A gay PA dinner party, home of Larry Schwartz that evening. Larry is cooking off to the side while his guests are seated in the living room.
Where is everyone?
It's a low turnout tonight.
Well, it's their loss because I'm making fondue.
I don't like to constantly dip for my dinner.
I think it's just the appetizer.
Well, just put a piece of meat on my plate.
Linda, you're gonna love it. It's got a lot of white wine in the sauce. Okay, now we wait.
Lyle gets up to snoop around Larry's apartment. Larry dries his hands and removes his apron. He reaches for a large stack of oversized cards on a side table and picks one up.
I just got my new Rorschachs in the mail today.
Larry, I didn't know you were into psychology.
Larry turns to show it to his colleagues.
Oh yeah? It's fascinating. Lyle, what do you see?
Cock.
No, it's more of a melancholy butterfly.
A melancholy butterfly? What's wrong with you?
I think it's open to interpretation, Lyle. Anyway, no official agenda tonight. We'll keep it brief, but we have to start planning for Dallas.
Like Jackie?
I do wish there were more people here. There's a lot to delegate.
Well, we can start with us. Tell us what's on the list, Larry.
Well, first of all, we have to make handouts of the relevant panels at the conference and our questioning strategies. We have to make a list of straight allies so we can identify them on panels and support them. Any takers?
Well, I can photocopy in my office. I mean, after hours, of course.
Good call.
Also, we need a map with all the locations.
God, I don't enjoy Texas.
We need a local bar somewhere near the hotel for the annual Gay PA cocktail party.
I'll find the bar.
Great.
You know, there's going to be gay activists there, just like the last 2 years.
Yes, and that's great. They'll do things their way. We'll do things our way.
Well, Kamini always shows up in a respectable suit.
I'm more concerned about the militants and the hippies. In San Francisco, we had 6 feathered activists storm into the aversion therapy session. They danced and shot confetti at everyone.
Oh, that was festive. And they called Bieber a motherfucker.
Well, he deserved it.
Well, boys, I'm afraid all that was my fault.
What do you mean?
I may have passed along some information.
You little spy.
I kind of wanted something to happen, so I snuck some press passes out to the activists.
Larry!
You're a double fucking agent.
That's so sneaky, Lawrence. I like one of them a lot, though. Barbara Giddings, she'll be there.
Which one is she again?
The lesbian librarian with the short hair.
Oh, that narrows it down.
She's a doll. Last year, she organized a panel called Lifestyles of Non-Patient Homosexuals.
You mean impatient homosexuals?
There's a gay rights movement happening out there, and we kind of need to join it.
Well, things will happen organically.
John, I think it may be going a little faster than we realize. There's activists out there on the streets with a lot fewer resources, and they're expecting something of us. The gay PA can't just be a secret social club.
Honey, you're not going to get anything done without change on the inside.
I know that. That's what I mean. We have to mobilize. We have some wonderful young straight allies who've gotten on board.
Larry, I think you need to lower your expectations. There's 18,000 shrinks in the country. Even if only 5% of them are gay, that's still 900 gay shrinks. Why are there only 3 people here?
Well, they don't all live in Greenwich Village.
Let's face it, there's still a lot of internalized homophobia.
That's right, Dr. Fryer. Where's your Bible?
On my desk.
Lyle steps over and brings back Larry's copy of the DSM.
You know what it says.
Well, let me just read it to you in case you forgot. Sociopathic personality disturbance. Even the gay ones still think it's a pathology.
We have to do a better job reaching out to them.
I think Lyle is trying to say that we can't do this with just 3 people.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. And I need to think of my career, and so do others.
Well, then why are you here, Lyle?
For your melted cheese, darling. I think our little social club serves a very nice purpose. Why do we have to be activists?
Lyle.
Look, I have to be pragmatic. I need to work for a goddamn living. We don't all come from a line of aristocratic Austrian Jews with a daddy who actually worked with Freud. I can say that, I'm half Jewish.
You know I hate it when you mention that.
Larry, I've lost 2 jobs. I wish I could be more helpful, but I just can't risk it.
I know, John. Look, we may not end up benefiting from this. It's a gamble. Maybe only the next generation will. But we have to do the work so that they don't have to lie in order to receive psychoanalytic training. Like you did, Lyle.
Larry steps aside once more for the last item. When he returns, Lyle is grabbing some of the main entree with his hands.
Jesus, Lyle, can't you delay gratification for 2 minutes?
Don't get upset, Larry. Lyle, for goodness sake.
You know what? I didn't enjoy lying to get into school. That was the system that was presented to me, and I just played by the rules. If they didn't know I was gay, that was their problem.
Perhaps I think we have to accept that some of us are dealing with residual internalized homophobia too.
Don't fucking psychoanalyze me, Larry. I'm older than you.
Wouldn't you have rather told your training analyst?
Why is this about me? Jesus! You're talking to me as if I don't want things to improve. Of course I want things to improve, but we all have our limits. I'm not going to martyr myself. You want to say that you're braver than me? Fine. I applaud you. But remember, we're not fucking activists here. We're physicians. And I appreciate our little group. I always bring the most expensive wine, but don't push me. And for the record, I did tell my analyst.
You did?
Yes. It's not my fault he was deaf.
What?
My psychoanalyst, he was partially deaf. He didn't hear half the things I said to him. I'd be talking for 20 minutes and he'd say, what's that? Come again? It was perfect.
A deaf therapist.
Sounds about right.
I'm perfectly fine with who I am. I am a goddamn good therapist. I don't crusade and I don't grovel.
You're a real trailblazer.
Okay, everyone will just do what they can do.
Unless we start getting rid of some of these 1950s fuddy-duddies on the board, anything proposed will immediately get vetoed.
We all agree with you, Larry.
You can start by getting some New Yorkers into positions of power. None of those goat fuckers from Arkansas. Like that handsome Spitzer, he can't be entirely straight.
And if they're young and hip, they can also be straight.
Yes, just no deaf ones.
What's that? Come again?
What? Come again?
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Music, lights fade. Scene 4. Ron's apartment that evening. Exhausted, Ron tries to choose between two TV dinners to eat. The phone rings.
Oh, hi, Ma. What's going on? Yeah? That's nice. You went to Barney Greengrass? Was it good? Why didn't you have whitefish? Okay. But Ma, you come all the way into the city and you don't call me? I would have come up to see you. Next time. So, you playing cards? Ma, you sound sad. You lonely? Don't be sad. I'm going to come visit you. I'm going to try for next week. Good. I'm volunteering at the Gay Activists Alliance. It's good. In fact, I saw a boy today. Couldn't have been more than 16 or 17, maybe.
Split stage flashback. Lights down on Ron and up on adolescent boy sitting alone in the dark. He faces a screen upstage with his back to the audience. He is hooked up to wires. He is addressed by an unseen male voice over a speaker.
Name, date of birth, address.
Ronnie Gold, April 2nd, 1933, 17, 2462 Arthur Avenue, apartment 7C, the Bronx.
Look at the screen.
Slides of attractive young women in 1950s bathing suits begin to be projected on the screen upstage.
Are these women attractive?
Yeah, some of them are. Well, this one is. It's not that I don't find these girls attractive. They're nice. It's just, I told you, I think I prefer guys.
A slide of a man with a muscular physique is projected.
Like this one?
Immediately, an electric zap is administered to young Ron's genitals.
Please, you don't have to do that.
Another slide of a naked man and another shock. Young Ron cries out. He then vomits. Lights shift back to adult Ron.
You reminded me of myself. Reminded me of everything where you and Pop sent me. I know, Ma, I'm not trying to guilt you, but we've been through this before. I'm just saying it brought back memories. I know you were only trying to help.
Lights shift back to young Ron. More slides of attractive women.
Yes, she's very nice.
What's her name?
I don't know. Sally? Susie?
It's Jane.
Okay, Jane.
Would you like to take Jane out on a date?
Yes, I would like to take Jane out on a date.
Would you like to kiss her?
Yes, I would like to kiss her.
Would you like to marry her?
Well, I'm 17, so I haven't really thought about marriage.
A male image again. Another electric zap to Ron's genitals.
Please, I can't take it anymore. I understand what you're trying to do, but maybe we can talk instead, please.
Another slide, another scream. Lights shift back.
I knew deep down inside that you loved me. I had to stay intact, mostly for you, Ma. What would you have done without me? Just today, after seeing this kid, made me a little sad too. We're just sharing sadnesses, Ma, right? Made me think of you. I'm so glad you called, Ma. There's nothing to forgive. I forgave you a long time ago. Don't cry. I love you.
Music. Lights fade. Scene 5. Barbara's apartment a few days later, evening. Barbara and John are sitting on her sofa.
Thank you so much for taking time for me.
Of course, I'm a big fan. I loved your panel last year and the kissing booth.
Hug a homosexual, that was fun.
You're good with the alliteration. Gay is good, hug a homosexual.
English major.
Smith?
I wish.
Well, it was great. I think better than when you disrupt the proceedings.
John, I am not one of the disruptors. I've been what you might call a serious activist for a long time.
Well, I didn't realize. Kudos to you.
And now, I'm almost a respectable presenter. I've been invited again to sit on a panel at the next year's conference. I've been working really hard at it. This one, I think I'm going to call Psychiatry, friend or foe to homosexuals.
Ah, there it is again, alliteration.
Oh my gosh, you're right. And I got a grant from the Falk Foundation, so I'm going to Dallas. Going to stay in a hotel and everything.
Oh, that's great, darling. I will come to your panel.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. John, I don't believe it's enough anymore to just have an authentic homosexual on a panel. Even one who's not in therapy. We need something more. We need someone on the inside.
Well, there are things happening on the inside.
No, I mean, we need someone gay on the inside.
Oh, what do you have in mind?
Something bigger, more impact. So this is Kay's idea, my girlfriend. She says the APA panels have largely been two shrinks pitted against two gays. We have psychiatrists who are not gay. We have gays who are not psychiatrists. What we need is someone who is both.
Oh, doll. Really? Of all people?
Why not?
Oh, Barbara, I can't be that person.
I've already asked quite a few of you.
But why me?
Why not you?
Oh, darling, do you need me to say it? I'm not brave enough. I'm in the closet.
Well, would you like to come out and play? Gay is good. Be a friend, not a foe.
Barbara, I'm one of the unlucky ones. I'm damaged goods. I just don't think I have anything to offer.
You know, I wanted to be a librarian. I wanted to be head librarian at Sarah Lawrence. That was my dream. But the library was a hostile place. As soon as I realized, full of books with falsehoods and damaging information. When I was a teen and I realized who I was, I went to the library and I looked it up. There it was, under vice. It was mortifying. I thought, I'm not a troublemaker. I'm not a pervert. I just want to kiss other girls. It put a fright in me that took many years to shake. Thank goodness for the novels in libraries. They were good. But the science books? Awful. Not very scientific at all. And soon as I realized I can't work in a library where lies sit on a shelf waiting for other unsuspecting little girls to have the bejesus scared out of them, I have to fight. I have to be an activist. And so I gave up my dream. I gave up my career to help make change, to make things right.
Oh, Barbara, I so admire you. I, on the other hand, followed my dream. I did everything I needed to do. 12 years of school, the studying, the slaving, the anguish. And then it was finally time to actually do it. And I get fired within 10 months. Suspicion of homosexuality. First, I get thrown out of my residency, and then I lose my dream job. Dismissed. Even though I was really good, dismissed, literally, a dismissed man. I cannot risk anymore. I'll end up on the streets, and I certainly can't face the man who fired me last year, brought me so much pain. Because, of course, he's going to be there, don't you know, in the first row.
Well,
Barbara
now's your
Fisher.
chance to tell him how you feel, what he did to you. John, we have to put a stop to this. Let's help these hopelessly misguided folks to realize what we go through. We're not mentally ill. Things are happening now. We have to seize the moment. Learn from the feminists. You've got to make it personal.
I don't know.
Last year, a good nurse friend of mine was trying to make her case to the panel. She got in their face and told them the truth. One shrink from the panel leaned into the microphone and called her a stupid bitch in front of the entire auditorium.
Well, that's not a proper diagnosis.
No, it's not. John, I've been searching for months, letters and phone calls across the country. Everyone else has turned me down. I think I've run out of gay psychiatrists.
Pussies, all of us, aren't we?
Will you do it?
Music. Lights fade. Scene 6. The office of Charles Socarides the next afternoon. Socarides is sitting behind his desk. His colleague Irving Bieber is visiting.
So, how many panels will you be doing this year?
I'm afraid just one as a panelist.
Oh, I'm sorry, Charles.
I had a feeling they wouldn't let me chair one this year.
Well, this election is anonymous.
Is it?
Charles, don't be discouraged. Any panel is another opportunity to get through to people. And your students will be there.
Well, I should hope so.
Charles, what's the matter? You seem distracted.
I'm concerned. About Dallas, there's going to be more disruptions.
I know, those hooligans.
They're so aggressive.
Or Barrack.
Why don't they understand? We're only trying to help. We're physicians. We took an oath.
Labeling us as oppressors. Last year, they called me a motherfucker. I'm not a motherfucker, am I, Charles?
Not at all, Irv.
We can't let it spin out of control. I won't be embarrassed again.
Which reminds me, I have to warn the room monitors and the hotel security. What's your panel?
Care of male homosexual service personnel in combat. You know, based on my experiences in Korea.
Groundbreaking work there. You were so compassionate. I can't understand why anyone would think otherwise.
I defended those soldiers from dishonorable discharges. Ungrateful. We don't want to throw people in jail. We want to help cure them.
If they only knew that I have a lot of genuine pity for homosexuals. I mean, my God, I've devoted my life to helping them. I'm actually more angry with other therapists. All sorts of justilists and the like upholding their patients' homosexuality, refusing to acknowledge it as a pathology. It doesn't do anyone any good.
You know what I heard? A cluster of homosexual psychiatrists inside the APA, and that they meet secretly.
It's mortifying. And it could be anyone. We have no way of knowing.
They're trying to align themselves politically with the liberals among us, like Spitzer, positioning them for important roles within the organization.
What is happening, Irv? My God. This profession, it used to make sense. People respected expertise. Now they're treating me like an out-of-touch buffoon.
You're an eminent psychiatrist, Charles. I mean, you wrote the definitive book on the subject. These are just fads, trends. Hippies, free love, gay is good, they say. It all amounts to social chaos.
You know, I've been getting lewd calls and messages. I didn't want to tell you because it's so vile. But the other day I had to go into the student restroom and I found a caricature scrawled on the wall of me engaged in a homosexual act. Now I look at the male students and I wonder who it is. Which one of them is trying to undermine me? That's not the worst of it. I've started to get death threats.
I know, Charles.
How did you know?
Claire told Toby.
I started to change my routine. I'd be lying if I told you I wasn't afraid.
I can imagine.
Bieber gets up and goes to shut the Venetian blinds. He returns to his chair, lifts his attaché case to his knees, and opens it.
Which is why I brought you this.
He produces a shiny gun.
This is for self-protection, Charles.
Bieber hands the gun to Socarides. After a moment of hesitation, he accepts it.
It's heavy. Do I need a permit?
Don't worry about it. You're a doctor. Keep it close by, Charles. And bring it to the conference. We don't want another incident in Dallas.
Discordant music. Lights fade. Scene 7. Ron's apartment that evening. Ron is just entering when the phone rings. He runs to it.
Hello? Hello? Damn it.
The phone rings again.
Hello? Oh, honey. Yeah, did you just call? Yeah, no, I was just running to the phone. What's up? Oh, yeah? Wait, 1 second. Hello? Oh, Jesus, hold on 1 second. Can you hold? 1 second.
Ron dangles the receiver upside down by its cord, a slow unwinding.
You still there? Sorry. One day these things will be cordless. So, what lesbian thing have you been up to? Yeah? Was it heavy? Oh my. Right. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. You did? You found a gay shrink? That's fantastic. You agreed to what? Honey, no, it's just that, what kind of message does that send? I understand, you don't need to tell me, but are we ashamed? Are we not ashamed? I know he's a psychiatrist. We all have a lot to lose. Uh-huh. I see. Nope, I'm just disappointed is all. I think I need to take a different tack. Baby, I do appreciate, but it's time to stop hiding. Listen, I wish both of you the best. I'll see you in Dallas.
Country music rises, lights fade. Scene 8. Dallas hotel conference room. A month later, evening. In a dark side room, John sits with his back to the audience while Barbara is helping him get ready.
The house is packed, my dear.
Don't tell me. My heart is racing.
Oh, you'll be great. Breathe.
I'm hot. I'm sweating.
Let's undo your collar. No one will see it anyway.
I always wanted to be on stage, but not like this.
This will be the highlight of the conference. People will be talking about this for years. I have a good feeling about 1972. I think it's going to be our year.
A quick fade out, a beat. As lights come back up, John is seated alone at a panel table. He is wearing a Nixon mask and an oversized powder blue tuxedo. Spotlight is tight on him. When he speaks into the microphone, his voice is distorted to conceal his identity. A few silhouettes of conference attendees skirt the stage with their backs to us.
I am a psychiatrist. I am a homosexual. Like most of you in this room, I'm a proud member of the APA. Tonight, I attempt to speak for many of my fellow gay members, as well as for myself. For several of us feel that it is time that real flesh and blood stand up before this organization and ask to be listened to and understood. To the curious among you, I ask, please cease attempting to figure out who I am and listen to what I say. What is it like to be psychiatrists who are homosexual? We know our place, what we must and must not do to be successful. If our goal is high academic appointment or admission to a psychoanalytic institute, we must make certain that no one in a position of power is aware of our sexual preference. We cannot be seen with our real friends, our homosexual family, lest our secret be known and our doom sealed. We are required to be more healthy than our heterosexual counterparts. Like the black man, we must know our place, attempt to pass, and be twice as good as our colleagues. And what is it like to be homosexuals who are psychiatrists? We certainly cannot wear our badges into the gay bars. If we did, we would risk the derision of all, for there is, as you can imagine, much negative feeling in the homosexual community towards psychiatrists. If visible, we would be the easiest targets on which the angry could vent their wrath. I would like to speak primarily to the other members of the gay PA who are present tonight. Although all of you are welcome to heed my words, when you are with your fellow professionals and are denigrating the faggots and queers, don't just stand idly by. Show a little creative ingenuity and make sure that you let your associates know that they may have a few issues still to think through. When fellow homosexuals come to you for treatment, develop creative ways to let them know that they're all right. Teach them everything they need to know and refer them to other sources of information with biases different from your own, so that they can freely make their own choices. The truth is, the APA is an elite group which imposes its standards of healthy and sick on marginalized groups because they inevitably occupy a position of power in relation to their patients. As psychiatrists who are homosexual, we must look carefully at the power which lies in our hands to define the health of others around us. I appeal to you, my colleagues, pull your courage up from your bootstraps and discover ways to contribute to a movement that is attempting to change the attitudes of both heterosexuals and homosexuals towards homosexuality. For all of us have something to lose. We are taking an even bigger risk, however, in not living fully our humanity. Thank you.
John receives loud applause from the onstage conference audience. Lights slowly fade. Scene 9. Outside Dallas hotel conference rooms in the hallway the next morning. A long-haired activist is waiting. Ron arrives.
Hey, good morning.
Where you been, man?
What do you mean? I'm just arriving.
I left you a message.
I didn't get it.
Frank's not here. He ain't coming.
Why the fuck not?
He got busted at the airport.
Oh, fuck me.
Yeah.
So we have no one. So who's gonna do it?
I can't do it, man.
Why not?
I'm not a good talker like you.
No, I'm more of a behind the scenes guy.
Ronnie, I've heard you speak. You're a smart man. They've already started. Please?
Blackout. When lights fade back in, we are inside the conference room. Socarides and Bieber are panelists, and Dr. Robert Spitzer chairs. Silhouettes of conference attendees skirt the stage with their backs to us. The presentation is already underway.
Our next presenter is Dr. Charles Socarides, who needs no introduction.
Thank you, Dr. Spitzer. Good morning, everyone. Quite a feisty start to the conference last night. I thought of giving my paper today in a McGovern mask, but decided against it. But seriously, I'm happy to be here with you today to share some recent findings vis-a-vis aversion therapy protocols for male homosexuals under 28 years of age. Now, it's important for me to explain to my young homosexual patients that basically what they do is deviant. That is, a practice not in accordance with normal adult sexual behavior. But I try to emphasize the behavior rather than the individual. I will say, Gary, Billy, whatever the patient's name may be, you are engaging in a deviant behavior rather than you are deviant. This seems to help the patient be less defensive and examine their conduct with greater objectivity. Now, as for ongoing therapy, I'm very traditional. When the patient reports a sexual encounter, I provide a series of rewards and punishments, encouragement for heterosexual responses, and reinforcement of guilt for homosexual ones. My conviction is that if it is a behavior, and I believe strongly that it is, it can certainly be modified.
I want to just interject here, if I may, Dr. Socarides. Given your data, do you find it perhaps more humane to employ a longer conditioning protocol, such as you are describing, wherein a homosexual patient may take weeks or even months to modify behavior, say compared to more immediate forms of aversion therapy or electroshock therapy?
Well, thank you for bringing that up, Dr. Bieber. I have certainly had quicker results with hormonal therapy, and yes, in many more extreme cases, I have recommended electroshock therapy. But those patients may also be severely depressed, such that they are even given.
Sadists! Murderers!
Ron jumps to his feet from within the audience, staging an activist zap.
Who are you? How dare you say I am sick? If I'm sick, it's only because you're making me sick.
Here we go.
Your profession causes nothing but harm, forcing perfectly normal, loving people to suppress who they are, take hormones, be brainwashed. Shame!
If the kind gentleman would, please.
When will you understand? You used to classify masturbation and vagabondage as signs of mental illness too. But now you've changed your minds because you realize it's all socially motivated. Well, I am here today, decidedly unmasked, to tell you I don't want to be cured. We are perfectly happy and proud the way we are. When will you stop talking about us and start talking with us? We are the experts on homosexuality, not you. We're not here to ask favors. We're here to demand that the APA change its ways. Aversion, shock therapy, lobotomies. What are you doing? Are you nuts? You're murderers.
Socarides and Bieber collect their papers and begin to leave.
We're going to do everything in our power to delegitimize your authority and stop your sadistic ways. You mark my word. Who am I? I am Ron Gold, and I represent the Gay Activists Alliance, and our position is clear. Psychiatry is the enemy. You're waging a relentless war of extermination against us. Well, you may take this as a declaration of war against you.
A few clap. People disperse.
Thank you, everyone. I'm sorry.
Spitzer is left alone on stage, shocked and speechless. Ron is alone in the audience. A very tense moment.
Proud of yourself? Is this what you and your friends do? You know, it's one thing to want to talk, it's another to break up a panel.
Yeah, well, this needed to be heard.
This is not the way to do it. We have Q&A at the end.
This is the only way to do it. The days of compliance and obedience are over. You need to know that.
Yeah, and what you need to know is that none of those people are trying to harm you. They are medical professionals who take their work very seriously. They're trying to help.
We don't need any help. It's over. You need to find another group to be your guinea pigs.
Yeah, what did I expect? You're hysterical.
Yeah, and you're a murderer.
Oh, you silly man. I'm not a murderer. I went to Harvard.
I know who you are. We chose to disrupt your panel because we know you're more liberal. You can't deny it. I know your type. Read the New Yorker, go to the ballet and the Met Opera, all full of homosexuals, by the way. You've made it. Well, now it's time for you to listen.
Why are you being such a stereotypically pushy Jew?
Because I don't like your kind of Jew. Scarsdale, BMW. You think that only goys are gay, am I right?
You embarrass me.
Well, maybe one day we can talk about your internalized anti-Semitism, but right now, I need your help.
And why would I help you?
Because you're a nice guy, and you're an insider, and something tells me you have your own doubts.
What do you want, Gold?
Invite us. Include us. What I did today had to be done, I'm sorry, but it was the only way to get your attention. Look, if you actually invite us to the table, we'll behave.
Right.
Look, you have my word. Invite me to some fancy panel and I'll show up in a suit and I'll read up and do my preparation and you won't be embarrassed. Come on, Spitzer, crack the door open just a little.
Well, maybe at next year's conference, you can get yourself to Hawaii.
No, that's a year away. You could have dozens of dead boys on your hand by then, fried to a crisp by your goons.
There's something wholly distasteful about you, but I'm not an unreasonable guy. Can't say I'm not intrigued. I mean, I think you're wrong, but you are interesting.
Okay, that's a start.
I happen to chair the nomenclature committee. We're the arm of the APA who edits the DSM, the Diagnostic.
Yeah, I know what it is.
We have a meeting in a couple months in New York. Give me your phone number. I'll see what I can do.
Music. Fade out. End of Act 1. Act 2, Scene 1. Nomenclature Committee meeting. APA New York offices several months later. Other than Dr. Spitzer's initial introduction, the three psychiatrists listen in silence for the entire time.
Despite my tactics at your last convention, I am not here today to attack you. I actually have a lot of respect for your profession, and I have personally benefited from it in the past. But I've also suffered at its hands. I know you are all very educated and sensible people, which is how I wish to appeal to you today. I'm here to talk about diagnosis number 302.0 in your DSM. With these 81 words that you've crafted, you cast me and all my gay brothers and sisters as crazies, sexual deviants, and second-class citizens. To you, it's just a definition. To us, it is our lives. But the funny thing is, you keep revising it. What does that tell you? It tells me that this is not some immutable scientific truth. If it were, it wouldn't change, like 2 + 2. This, however, smacks more of shifting societal views on morality, and it deserves to be critiqued. Past DSMs also listed as mental disorders: lying, stealing, fear of getting syphilis, and being cranky. It all seems funny now, but I can only imagine that it likely devastated many people's lives, these judgments. Humans like to classify, don't we? To label things that cause us fear. It's easier to blame and disavow the individual than a hostile society. He'll feel his misery is his fault, and he'll cower. And man, there is a lot of money to be made. We believe this kind of diagnosis making is social, not scientific. A reflection of prevailing values with large doses of Judeo-Christian morality. The question is, are you scientists or are you priests? I was surprised to hear that none of you had heard of Dr. Evelyn Hooker's research, and I'm grateful that you reviewed it in the preparatory report that we sent you. Dr. Hooker's study is groundbreaking. It shows no perceptible differences between the responses of heterosexual and homosexual men to psychological tests such as the Rorschach. None of the experts that Dr. Hooker solicited to read the results could tell any difference. Dr. Kinsey confirms that fully 37% of his male sample admitted to having extensive or more than incidental homosexual experiences, nearly 40%. Are they all sick? In addition to all the shame and guilt, the natural depression and despondence that results, your classification also keeps us from being granted the civil rights due to all Americans, not to mention the slam of the sodomy laws, which land us in jail. Just say you don't like us. Just that you don't like what we do, that we're rotten and immoral. That'd be more honest. It's better to be immoral than sick, because you can argue with immoral. But if you're sick, people think it's scientific and not subject to dispute. So let me play psychiatrist for a moment. Being told you're sick makes you sick. You end up not only believing it, but playing it out. I am telling you, we are not sick, and we don't need to be cured. We only need to be cleared of this stigma, this mark. We have paid the price for your diagnosis making, your past mistakes, but we won't do it anymore. Stop thinking that nobody would be gay if they could help it. We like being gay. We love the sense of community and camaraderie, the perspective from the sidelines. I think, in fact, that gay people have a lot to teach the world about the real differences between human beings and the capacity to love and coexist. One day you will understand how wrong you were. And until that day comes, you'll have to trust us and our sanity.
Silence. The three psychiatrists sit motionless. They sneak slight peeks at each other to gauge each other's reaction, then return their gaze to Ron. Speechless. No music. Slow fade out. Scene 2. Ron's apartment that night. Ron is in bed reflecting on the eventful day. His face shows a combination of satisfaction, anxiety, restlessness. He gets under the covers and turns off the light. Lights shift to blue, discordant music. The head of the bed starts to slowly lift into a raked position. The blanket falls off of Ron, and we see that he is strapped down. Ron's mother appears sitting at his bedside, holding his hand. Then, out of the darkness, a 1950s neurosurgeon appears with ice pick and hammer in hand.
So there's no other choice?
Well, there are other options, but this is the best one.
You gonna put me to sleep first?
Anesthesia is not called for this procedure.
Ronnie, you just relax now.
We prefer a protocol of electroconvulsive shock. You'll knock yourself unconscious. Just try not to have too many convulsions, because then things can get messy.
Okay.
This procedure is called a transorbital lobotomy.
Uh-huh.
We sever certain connections between different parts of the brain. When you wake up, you'll feel great.
But aren't you opening up the front of my head?
Oh, goodness, no. That would be quite inelegant. Besides, you might get an infection. No, here we go through the eye cavity.
The eye?
Oh, I can assure you it's the quickest way in. I position the ice pick at a 30-degree angle, and with a little jab of the hammer, we go right into the exact spot. Swish it around with like a little swizzle stick. It's fast, and best of all, it's cheap.
Oh, no, thank you, doctor.
Ma, I'm afraid.
Oh, no, son, fear not. We received the Nobel Prize for this procedure. It's fantastic. You know, some doctors still drill little holes in your head and then pour the drugs in. Others implant electrodes much deeper into the septal region. Patients become mute, catatonic, delusional. One patient is said to have pulled the electrodes right out of his head, mid-procedure, running out of the operating room with the wires still sticking out of his brain. Now, you wouldn't do that, would you?
No, Ronnie's a good boy.
I'm a good boy.
Yes, you are. Are you ready?
Yes.
The surgeon begins the procedure. Ron continues to converse.
Doc, have you heard of what the Nazi doctors are doing over in Europe? Some pretty awful experiments on prisoners.
Now, Ronnie, they are barbarians. We are skilled and compassionate American surgeons.
A knock of the hammer reverberates in the theater.
So, your son, what is he? Schizophrenic? Some kind of lunatic?
He's a homosexual.
Oh, goodness. You're a fairy. Well, not to worry. 40% of my lobotomy patients are homosexuals.
The surgeon drives the ice pick deeper in.
You know, Doc, I've been reading up in the library about famous people in history who were homosexuals.
Good.
There's Socrates and Alexander the Great, Leonardo da Vinci, Oscar Wilde, and Tchaikovsky.
That's right, son.
Would you have given them the procedure if you could?
Oh, absolutely, Ron. I believe it would have helped them to be even better. Why did poor Leonardo only paint a dozen paintings if he was so talented? He was likely paralyzed by his depravity. Who knows how many hundreds of Mona Lisas we could have had if he could have treated him?
What if you had hurt his eye on the way in and he could never paint again?
Well, I'd certainly be very careful around his eye. You know, he was arrested and thrown in jail for sodomy.
Oh, I didn't realize.
Oh, yes, with a minor. Disgusting. Is that what you want, Ronnie?
No.
No.
It's just, I don't understand. If we're so sick, why are we the ones that everyone always remembers?
Ronnie, that's enough. Let the doctor do his work.
Ma, this isn't your fault. I don't want you to think that for 1 second. I don't care if you were too closely binding and overbearing. I loved you the most, and I still do. But now they're disconnecting my brain. Oh, God. Oh, it hurts.
Piano comes in.
Ronnie.
Okay.
Dr. Spitzer emerges out of the shadows and saunters elegantly downstage. He is dressed in an immaculate white tuxedo and holds a glass of scotch and a cigarette. He begins to sing with a silky, honeyed voice.
There was a boy, a very strange, enchanted boy. They say he wandered very far over land and sea. A little shy and sad of eye, but very wise was he.
Scratchy black and white childhood home movies of Ron and Ma are projected on the back wall. Happier, carefree days. Spitzer continues under.
And then one day, one magic day, he passed my way. And while we spoke of many things, fools and kings, this he said to me: the greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return.
The song comes to an end, but piano continues for an interval. Ron's gurney is slowly wheeled off. Spitzer follows it. Home movies flicker out. The jazz piano slowly gives way to a traditional tune heard in the distance. Scene 3. Honolulu, sunrise. Hilton Hotel outdoor front entrance. Site of the 1973 APA annual convention several weeks later. The set, lights, and music have slowly transformed from the hellish nightmare of the previous scene to a luxurious postcard, perfect beachfront paradise. After the sun comes up, conference attendees begin to arrive from both sides of the stage. Larry and John first.
John, good to see you. How was your flight?
Fine, but I'm starving. I can't eat in the air.
Did you bring any new masks?
Why, Larry, I have no idea what you're talking about.
They giggle and go into the hotel. Bieber arrives. He seems nervous. He looks around but seems to miss the beauty of the place. He walks in. Lyle arrives. He's wearing a Hawaiian lei around his neck.
Aloha, bitches. Where is everybody?
Lyle walks into the lobby. Socarides arrives. He puts down his suitcase for one moment to survey the location. A bellhop appears. May I take that for you, sir?
No. Don't touch that.
Socarides quickly grabs his bag. He turns around only to confront Spitzer, who is just arriving. An uncomfortable encounter.
Dr. Socarides,
Dr. Spitzer?
nice setting for a shrink conference.
Indeed. I understand you're becoming quite chummy with our homosexual activists.
Why, yes, I am. I find them quite fascinating.
Let me give you a word of advice.
Okay.
You're a good psychiatrist and a good administrator. Don't get involved with politics. It's fit
And
and unscientific.
you suppose we are without politics?
Be careful, Bob. I wouldn't want to see you damage your career.
Oh, I'm not worried about my career, Charles. I am, however, concerned with some of our colleagues, the ones who can't seem to evolve.
Careers have a way of redeeming you in the end.
Not for everyone. I'll see you at the panel.
Spitzer walks in. Socarides lingers for a moment, looks around, and then goes in. Barbara and Ron arrive last. They slowly walk toward each other.
Well, fancy meeting you here.
Who'd you have to rob to fly to Honolulu?
Oh, not just one person. Basically all the lesbians in Greenwich Village.
I'm sorry I've been out of touch.
Oh, no, I understand. I mean, you have a real grown-up job, unlike the rest of us.
I've been thinking of quitting the biz, devoting myself to activism full time.
Ron, that's fantastic.
Look, honey, I'm sorry about
No, it's fine, Ronnie.
I was just a little upset about the tactics.
Well, it was a start. And apparently it did get a lot of people talking.
No, I hear you got a standing ovation. What you and Kay did was good.
So was your Zap. And now I hear you're a regular at the nomenclature committee.
Ron hugs Barbara.
I missed you.
I missed you too. I have a good feeling about 1973.
Come on. Let's see what shit we can stir up.
They walk arm in arm into the hotel. Hawaiian music rises. Lights fade. Scene 4. Honolulu Hilton Conference Room. A panel. The next morning. Dr. Larry Schwartz and Ron Gold debate Dr. Charles Socarides and Dr. Irving Bieber. Dr. Spitzer presides as chair. Silhouettes of conference attendees skirt the stage with their backs to us.
Good afternoon, everyone. As chair of the nomenclature committee, I've sponsored this panel discussion so that we may hear various positions regarding the status and wording for Diagnosis 302.0, sexual deviance, homosexuality in the DSM. There is clearly a need for such a discussion, and I wish it to be open, robust, and civil. Dr. Bieber will start us off.
Thank you, Dr. Spitzer. Despite the personal attacks I've experienced at these last few conferences, I am here today in the spirit of generosity and scientific inquiry. Regardless of what some may think, I do not have a bias against homosexuals, as I have no bias against any of my patients. My interest remains caring for people. I believe homosexuals ought to be cared for. At the same time, the research does not lie. I cannot deny that in my considerable sample of male homosexuals ages 17 to 35, I have found a consistent mixture of hyper-narcissism, defensive malice, flippancy to cover up depression and guilt, hyper-superciliousness, and unreliability of a psychotic nature. Now, it is my position that when the underlying condition is cured, such neurotic traits will in fact dissipate.
Dr. Socarides.
Thank you. As a psychologist, I've devoted my career to the study of homosexuality and its origins, and I concur with my colleague. Major traits include wild self-damaging tendencies, onslaughts of paranoid ideation, injustice collecting, rage reactions, disappropriation to the provocation, and a preponderance to violence against the self and others at rates close to 10 times that of their heterosexual peers. Like Dr. Beaver, I believe these behavioral traits can be reversed, and furthermore, that psychoanalysis is in the best position to do so.
Thank you, Dr. Socarides. Dr. Schwartz.
Thank you, Dr. Spitzer. Dr. Socarides, you describe homosexuals or gay males as having wild, self-damaging tendencies and onslaughts of paranoid ideation. But is it not true that these clinical impressions are based mostly, if not entirely, on studies of patients who were already in treatment? If that is the case, I must ask you, how can you infer from the skewed sample and extrapolate, quite extravagantly I might add, to the majority of homosexuals? Furthermore, these traits do not apply to some of your other homosexual patients, and do apply to many of your heterosexual patients. I'm afraid I'm questioning both your sample and your interpretation of the data at the outset.
Mr. Gold.
As you all know, I am not a psychiatrist, but I've done my homework, and I believe I am in the position to comment, also as a past patient. The people you describe do not represent the majority of gay men. Most of the patients you base your assumptions on sought therapy themselves. Maybe they had underlying issues, but it's not just the skewed sample. I believe there is bias involved.
And if I may, I believe what Mr. Gold is observing, even as a non-physician, is that with all due respect to our colleagues, this research is rendered unscientific. We believe it is biased, based on invisible sociocultural factors such as societal normativity, morality values, and possibly faith.
Dr. Socarides.
To suggest that my research or practice is somehow affected by my personal values is simply wrong and quite insulting. All therapists are trained and able to distinguish between the personal and professional and bring sound objectivity to the table.
We don't doubt it. We just believe stronger forces may be at play that even you may not be aware of, with all due respect. Most gays and lesbians are not in therapy, do not wish to be in therapy, and have none of these characteristics you describe. I don't know where all these people are with wild self-damaging tendencies and disproportionate rage reactions, except in the movies. Yes, we experience distress, a lot of it, but most of it comes from constant discrimination, not from our innate attractions. I wouldn't be surprised if you told me we experience more depression, more substance abuse, more suicide, but it's from the hardness of our lives. To say we're mentally sick because we're depressed is to get things the other way around.
I agree. Some gays and lesbians may have underlying mental conditions, some not. There's variation. Being gay is not a unitary experience, and sometimes it may be hard to distinguish where one ends and the other begins. But for our colleagues to deduce a priori innate mental illness instead of entertaining these clinical signs as the result of chronic minority stress is either ignorance or outright bias.
Let me add that it is not uncommon for homosexuals to lay blame at someone else's feet. This is part of the pattern.
Dr. Socarides, please understand. One can be mentally ill and gay, but it's not your gayness at fault. Society makes us mentally distressed. Do you understand that? If you're spending all your time hiding parts of your life, it's shaming and exhausting, and eventually it's going to present clinically.
I disagree. Homosexuality itself is the pathology. It affects the total personality, and it invariably leads to its complete disintegration. Perhaps some of the misunderstanding here results from poor or no psychoanalytic training.
I agree. You have to go deep into the history of the patient. It's hard, daily work. You have to unearth the phobias and neuroses. These people have massive childhood fears, paranoia, phobic obsessions, and severe compulsion. For example, the desperate compulsive search for sexual partners is a grasping for an ever-elusive masculinity, protecting the homosexual from his fear of merger with his pre-Oedipal mother.
Oh, here we go.
I'm not sure how Dr. Bieber can suddenly quote Dr. Freud himself when he has on other occasions discredited him entirely. Dr. Bieber, have you not explicitly rejected the assumption of constitutional bisexuality and an innate homosexual drive as articulated by Freud?
Dr. Bieber?
Dr. Schwartz fully knows that I am a neo-Freudian, and I devise my own theories based on the literature.
You pick and choose psychoanalytic theory at your convenience to serve your purposes.
May I have to say, Freud and psychoanalysis have always sounded more like poetry to me than science. Absent fathers, domineering mothers, it all sounds more like a Greek play. How can you measure the absence of a father? How do you measure domineeringness? Why would an immediate sibling not turn out to be gay if they had the same family dynamic? And what about bisexuals? Was their father absent only 50% of the time?
And if you want to invoke a psychoanalytic line from Freud to Lacan, why not ask whether heterosexuality reflects a symbolic self-denigration expressed by loving only people different from oneself? Heterosexuality is a kind of self-hatred.
Oh, that's preposterous.
And on a related note, I have always found the blaming of mostly the mother to be incredibly misogynistic.
Mothers are simply the primary caregiver and have a greater influence on the psychosexual development of the child. Men are, of course, at work.
Frankly, I'm surprised to hear you bring up misogyny when one of your principal traits of the homosexual is to fear women.
Oh, I was waiting for that one. It's hogwash. I don't know any gay men who hate or avoid women or are frightened of their genitals. In fact, I think gay men might be the only men who have true respect for women. Indeed, I'm struck by the small number of women here. I would have liked to have seen a woman invited to represent half the people we're talking about.
I do agree. We could have a female psychiatrist and perhaps a female homosexual on the panel. But that is political. What I am talking about is the scientific data we have gathered on the roles of parents on psychosexual development. For an instance, an interesting recent finding on Israeli kibbutzes, where children do not live with their parents and hence are not enmeshed with close binding mothers, everyone is heterosexual. There are no gays on a kibbutz.
Well, I'm sorry to tell you, but I just came back from Israel where I had a wonderful fling with a man who was raised on a kibbutz.
Well, that's not what the data shows. Perhaps he was a foreigner.
No, he wasn't Israeli. Introduced me to hummus. Have you tried it? It's fabulous. He loved the stuff. He was what you might call a homosexual.
Well, homosexuality in the Holy Land notwithstanding, I'd like to refocus the conversation on the matter of discrimination. Dr. Schwartz?
Look, classifying homosexuality as a disorder not only demonizes us, but allows for the legal and political establishment to continue to discriminate. So yes, it is political. We believe depriving those institutions of the mental disorder label would considerably short-circuit their discrimination.
We do want civil rights for homosexuals, but we want to cure them first.
We don't want to be cured.
Well, Mr. Gold, you are not a physician. Even if all discrimination against homosexuals ceased immediately, I do not think that their anxieties, conflicts, loneliness, and frequent depression would suddenly stop.
So there's no hope whatsoever.
Again, I have no judgmental bias against homosexuality. I merely believe that it's incompatible with a reasonably happy life.
Who's to say what's a reasonably happy life? You have your life, which I might think quite bleak, and we have ours.
Your project here is political, Mr. Gold, not medical, and we reject it. You are trying to argue that homosexuality is normal.
No, only that it's not abnormal. It's been part of civilizations for thousands of years, long before you or I arrived here.
It is abnormal. What about the staggering rates of promiscuity?
That's not empirical data. That's a value judgment.
That word, promiscuity, sounds more like Judeo-Christian to me. Here's the reality of it. Unlike straight men who have all sorts of societal pressures, gay men's sexuality is not repressed. This is what men are like, gay or straight, when left to their own devices. It's just that with gay men, there are no women around to say no. And it's because we don't capitulate to the heterosexual model, because we are the only ones leading lives true to a man's nature. We are resented and punished.
In my experience, homosexual males have up to 150 sexual encounters per year. Is that normal? I think it's unmitigated proof of compulsion, risk, and destruction.
Not to mention being overly obsessed with one's own genitalia.
Not any more than you are.
Actually, you seem to be quite obsessed with ours. Look, you have sex to conceive, I have sex for pleasure. Perhaps there's a little subconscious envy there?
What a shame.
Gay men are sexually unfettered and more sexually fulfilled. Psychoanalytically, perhaps they have less neurosis, not more.
You punish those of us who unapologetically act on our desires, and then you invent illnesses to repress it.
The heterosexual monogamous coupling in the sanctity of marriage is the model of psychosexual health. Anything else is perversion.
Sanctity of marriage?
I think this is the rationalizing and justifying that takes place in the homosexual mind. You're betraying your mammalian heritage.
And you're betraying your Greek heritage.
Excuse me. As a psychiatrist, I am ashamed here today. Instead of trying to help people, apparently, we are agents of social control. It's medical McCarthyism. You go out on the street and you see people who people are more afraid of, gays or shrinks.
You are being most dramatic, Dr. Schwartz. You and Mr. Gold can make inflammatory statements all you want, but you cannot argue with the findings. Homosexual relationships are characterized by suspicion, coercion, and mutual defeat. It is a sickness, a masquerade, a life filled with destructiveness, self-defeat, and...
Stop it! Stop it! You're making me sick! Just stop it! First, we were possessed by the devil and burnt at the stake. Then, we were sinners and criminals thrown in jail. Now, we're sick and can be involuntarily committed to Bellevue at any moment. Enough! To be viewed as psychologically disturbed in our society is to be treated as a second-class citizen, which is not good for your mental health. The worst is that some gay people believe you. Imagine yourself at 14. You look yourself up in the high school hygiene book. You're right there with the rapists and pedophiles. What is more likely to alienate you from your sexual part of yourself than to be incessantly told that that part of you is sick? Nothing makes you sick like believing that you're sick. It's a tribute to human adaptability, a tribute to the love we do have and to the pleasure we derive from it that all of us haven't gone completely bats. I don't want to punish you or boycott your profession. It's just that the next time someone comes to you distressed about their homosexuality, tell them it's not the attraction that's the problem. Instead of agreeing immediately to their requests for brainwashing, help them to realize that there are many successful, well-adjusted people in various professions who are gay, and that successful sexual adjustment, homosexual or heterosexual, cannot be achieved in a climate of guilt or fear. Like other oppressed minorities, we know more about you than you know about us. We think we can save you the trouble of treating a few anecdotally unhappy individuals and allow you to use your talents on people who need you more. We also think we can be helpful adjuncts for many of your patients by welcoming them to our movement and pointing them along the road to self-esteem. You can say it's all a sham, but if you don't believe me about others, believe me about myself. I feel better since I've joined gay liberation. I work better, I'm happier. Would you rather have me the way I am, or would you rather go on calling me sick? I think you know, deep down inside, that I am not sick. My depression and past drug habits were, at least in part, a direct result of the crimes perpetrated on me by a hostile society. Your profession has been a willing accomplice to such crimes, and you must take responsibility for it. And to the 944 psychiatrists in the audience, I suspect that for many of you, most of what I'm saying is not new, and that a growing majority of you don't agree with the self-styled experts in your field, the fringe of your profession. But thus far, you have allowed these handful of homophobes to tell the public what your profession thinks. These are the people the media always calls on when they want something official about us. I know, because I work for them. It's up to you to beat them at their own game. And one last thing about my resoluteness. It's only since I've gotten into gay lib that I've begun to realize it is absolutely okay for me to be just as masculine and aggressive and competent as the rest of you. I won't be your pansy. I think you're frightened to death of someone like me who can calmly consider himself a man, a non-conforming, different kind of man, but one who doesn't have to follow all the rules you've so painfully been trying to obey. And one last word to that substantial number of you in the psychiatric profession who are gay. Some of your straight colleagues have begun speaking out in our favor. The time is right. If 20 or 30 or 100 of you came out now all at once, you wouldn't all lose your patients or your jobs. Instead, you'd provide your profession with just the shock therapy it needs. Homosexuality has the same cause as heterosexuality, our blessed human capacity to love and care for each other. We will not debate the legitimacy of our lives any longer. In the name of mental health, take this damning label of sickness away from us. I hereby call on the Nomenclature Committee of the American Psychiatric Association to vote a resolution at this convention to remove homosexuality from the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, to work for civil rights protections of gays and tell the world that gay is good.
Ron has effectively ended the panel. Spitzer shakes Ron's hand, then Larry's. Shaking their heads, Bieber and Socarides gather their papers and leave. The applause eventually dies down. Larry leaves the stage and all disperse. Ron and Dr. Spitzer come downstage.
Congratulations.
I don't know where that came from.
It was terrific. Exactly what they needed. Can I buy you a drink to celebrate?
That's very kind. I actually have plans.
Ah, well, another time.
It's the annual Gay PA cocktail party now. That's what the gay shrinks call themselves, the Gay PA.
I gathered.
Listen, it needs to be kept hushed up, but why don't you come along? I think it may be a good idea for you to see it.
Well, how would I?
You can just observe.
Hawaiian music. Lights fade. Scene 5. Gay PA gathering, a campy Honolulu gay bar an hour later. Bamboo, colored neon lights, Hawaiian music, exotic drinks. Lyle, John, and Barbara are having a drink at the bar. Ron and Spitzer walk in, Spitzer in a slight disguise. John notices Ron, raises his glass, and clinks it with a spoon. Spitzer steps aside.
Ladies and gentlemen, to the man of the hour, Ron Gold. A wise and courageous man. It took a non-psychiatrist to shake us all up. With a rousing, poignant speech, Unmasked, this will be remembered as a turning point, and I will forever be grateful to you, Ron Gold. To Ron.
To Ron!
Barbara goes to kiss Ron, hugs and handshakes all around. As they turn back to conversation, Spitzer starts to circulate and eavesdrop. He inches his way closer to John and taps him on the shoulder.
Hi.
Hello.
Can I ask you a question? How long have you known you were homosexual?
Excuse me?
You know, how early?
John looks at him strangely and walks away. Still determined to get some first-hand information, Spitzer sidles up to Lyle. He taps him on the shoulder.
Hi.
Hi.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure, handsome.
When did you realize you were homosexual?
Is that your usual opening line?
I'm just a little curious.
Wait a minute. I know who you are.
No, it's not me.
Ron, did you invite Spitzer here?
I did. I thought it'd be a good idea for him to see this.
Well, he's going around asking people stupid questions.
Sorry, I'll talk to him.
Get rid of him.
What did I say? Discreet.
I was trying to be unnoticeable, but I got recognized.
Just cool it. Blend in. Hey.
Spitzer drifts off to the side. Ron is standing alone. A young army officer in uniform enters the bar. The officer spots all the psychiatrists. He then sees Ron and slowly approaches him.
Excuse me, you're Mr. Gold?
I am.
I'm sorry to bother you. I'm Officer Raymond. Actually, Dr. Arthur Raymond. I'm an Army psychiatrist stationed here in Hawaii.
Oh, great.
Originally from Minnesota.
Nice gig for a Minnesota boy.
I happened to be in the audience earlier this afternoon and I heard your speech. I was sitting in the back. I couldn't believe what was happening. The way you took on those doctors and your personal story, it reminded me of my own time growing up. The struggles. Anyway, I was very moved.
Well, I wasn't really planning on making a big speech. It just kind of came out.
That's what was so impressive. The only non-shrink able to cut to the truth. Your words, I have to tell you, they gave me strength. So much so that I decided to come here today to a gay bar for the first time ever. You gave me the courage. And I chose this bar at random, and here you all are. It's just, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
The officer takes out a perfectly pressed handkerchief from his suit pocket. Ron puts his hand on his shoulder.
First time? Really? Wow. Officer Raymond, I don't know what to say.
Please, call me Art.
Art. I'm so touched. I'm so glad you came.
I'm afraid I've been dishonest with my commanders, my patients, my family.
Let me get you a drink.
Ron turns to the bar. The officer gets himself back together. Ron returns. We see that Spitzer is watching.
Here. Cheers.
Thank you. So today I decided enough. And I have you to thank. I just can't believe you're here and that I ran into you. It's perfect. Anyway, I don't want to keep you from your friends. I really just wanted to shake your hand.
The officer extends a firm military handshake. Ron looks at him and hugs him instead. After a moment, they pull apart and Ron bids the officer a semi-salute goodbye. Spitzer, who's been watching this whole time, slowly walks over to Ron and gestures for them to step aside. They move downstage. Spitzer looks at Ron for a long moment and nods in approval and admiration. He seems emotional as well. He puts his arm around Ron's shoulder.
Come on, let's go.
Where?
My hotel room.
Oh?
To write.
Wait,
Ron walks over to the officer who has been drinking alone on the side.
I have to go now, but I was wondering, do you ever get to New York?
I can.
Here's my number.
The officer tucks Ron's card safely in his jacket's inner pocket. Ron smiles and walks back to Spitzer. The two leave as Hawaiian music rises. Scene 6. Socarides' Honolulu hotel room later that night. Socarides paces aimlessly, mumbling to himself. He reaches for his presentation notes, but throws them away in frustration.
Thinking. I mean, degenerates, bastards.
Socarides then checks that his hotel room door is locked and walks over to his briefcase on the bed. He slowly takes out the gun. As he is handling it, turning it over in his hands, a bearded old man with round glasses quietly steps forward out of the darkness.
What are you going to do with that, mister?
This was just for protection.
Like a mobster?
Socarides puts the gun back in the briefcase.
You're here to critique me, to ridicule me like everyone else?
Well, yes.
I tried to incorporate your theories.
And?
I ended up questioning them.
Didn't suit your needs, huh?
I admired you. I just couldn't subscribe to all of them.
That's because you universalized from your own experience, Charles. Because of your enormous ego. What those people were saying today is true. Your research was skewed. Or you purposely didn't research well-adjusted homosexuals.
I couldn't find any.
Because you didn't want to. It was your conviction that homosexuality was an aberration from the get-go. And you proceeded to carefully create a body of evidence to support it. You think you're outside of everything, a clean and impartial observer, but you're not, Charles. You're prejudiced.
How could I be prejudiced? I'm a scientist.
Scientists can be prejudiced. You somehow learn from your culture that homosexuality is bad, and you end up rationalizing it into your professional life. That sometimes happens with therapists, but those are not the best ones, I'm afraid. You invoke my work, but I'm not sure you truly understand it. My work was meant to challenge mainstream values, expose the truth to a Puritan society. Instead, you stigmatize nonconformity with relish. You are unsympathetic, Charles, and unkind.
Out of the darkness, another figure steps forward. It is a middle-aged woman with a briefcase.
Oh, I'd go further.
You're a schmuck.
Yes, you're a schmuck.
The fuck are you?
Oh, now it's a party.
So you recognize him, but you don't recognize me? Typical.
Charles, that's hooker.
She's a hooker?
Yes, I'm a hooker. Like I haven't heard that one before. What an asshole.
Why didn't you familiarize yourself with Dr. Hooker's research? It's been around since 1949. You don't like women scientists? You're prejudiced against them too?
I'm not prejudiced against women.
Then why haven't you reviewed my study? It plainly demonstrates that all the top experts in the world failed their own test. Couldn't distinguish between the gay boys and the straights.
Good for you, Evelyn.
Thank you, doctor.
Yeah, you should have read it, Charles.
Look, I understand. It's very painful when you're being attacked and discredited, especially when you're committed to therapeutic concerns as you are. We all want to be right. The thing is, you genuinely thought you were doing science, but you were really just moralizing. You and Bieber and Rado, the whole lot of you. You were fooling yourselves. I'm not sure if it's just a lack of empathy. It could be that you're just stupid. And I say that with a lot of compassion. You might not be as sophisticated enough to be a mental health professional.
Not everyone can or should be a psychiatrist.
Well, you can be one, but not a very good one.
I'm furious with you both.
The thing is, Dr. Sakaridis, you're dealing with real human beings. There's complexity and nuance. I think people willfully misinterpret me because tolerating ambiguity is difficult. Still, you can't just make categorical judgments, cast an entire group of people.
No, you can't.
Well, what if I said that Greeks can only run diners? How would that make you feel?
Well, that's just insulting.
Yes, dealing with people, it's more of an art. What I was doing with family dynamics, early childhood experience, it was just a way of analyzing. It was a metaphor. It wasn't to indict people. It was to try to unpack their shit. And it was very much inspired by poetry and drama. I was a neurologist with an imagination. I relied on my intuition, but I never thought it was definitive. And I assumed one day that people would prove me wrong.
You get 5 shrinks in a room, you get 5 opinions.
That's right. And many of those opinions are made by very driven, very narcissistic people. Some want to see their patients 5 times a week for their ego, to control them, to fatten their own purses. Who knows? It's not all so admirable.
I never did this to get rich. God knows there were other research areas that would have been much more rewarding. The homosexuals, they're the ultimate example of childhood neuroses. What about fear of competing with the father, the incest barrier, castration anxiety? These are your theories.
And they were just theories, stories. The castration one, I really overused. Anyway, the point is, even if some of them are valid, why can't you accept that there are happy homosexuals, just the way they are? If it's not causing them distress, why do you care so much?
It's causing me distress.
Well, maybe you should get some therapy.
These activists, they wouldn't be succeeding if we weren't so ravaged by internal disputes.
Oh, listen to your colleagues. Disagreement is good.
Why? Why would you choose this area to make such a big deal about?
It's God's will.
Oh, Jesus.
Oy, stop invoking God, Charles. It's unscientific. Look at some of the greatest men in Western culture have been homosexuals. Plato, Aristotle, Michelangelo.
Liberace. I love him.
You, Charles, I'm afraid are not one of them.
You, more than anyone, should know. The worst, the most sadistic of the Nazis that killed your people. They were all homosexuals.
Freud and Hooker look at each other with astonishment.
Oh, dear man. It wasn't their homosexuality that made them cruel. It was their prejudice and inhumanity.
You're grasping at nothing, Charles, and it's disgraceful. Charles, your son will be gay.
What?
Your son? My daughter, too.
No. No, you're a sorcerer, a witch. And you, I thought your people were supposed to be a light unto nations.
Right. What right?
Get out, both of you. No son of mine will ever be a homo.
It's
Get
true,
out!
Charles. It's true, Charles. David, by your second of, I believe it will be 4 wives, he'll come out to you in about 10 years. I suggest you start working on a sympathetic response.
Get out!
Freud and Hooker begin to leave. Before they do, they both turn around.
You wasted your life, Charles. If history remembers you at all, it will be for your cruelty.
We have to be careful who we decide to shun. It may end up being our children.
Freud and Hooker leave. Socarides is in crisis. He bangs on the wall. He yells out a few barely intelligible things.
Bastards! Sons of bitches!
Socarides falls to his knees. Discordant music. Lights fade. Scene 7. Dr. Spitzer's Honolulu hotel room later that evening. Dr. Spitzer and Ron have just walked in.
Drink?
You kidding? Of course, drink.
I have to say, this was quite something, a real eye-opener for me. I mean, I couldn't believe how many people were there. Committee chairs, university department heads. Is everyone gay?
It's an epidemic.
No, really, I just didn't realize the numbers. Gosh. I think we were wrong.
Wow. Kind of crazy to hear you say that.
I think we just didn't know enough gay people. I mean, outside of the people we treat who are this high profile and accomplished and apparently perfectly happy and fine with who they are.
Nothing like a good old-fashioned schmooze.
I have to say, Ron, I'm very impressed with you. You got real courage. The gays should be very happy to have you. Have you ever thought about psychiatry?
You're kidding.
Yeah.
Spitzer puts his arm around Ron.
Well, come on. We got work to do, and you're going to help me.
Spitzer sits at the desk.
We need new wording.
How about we're not insane and stop torturing us?
Well, something to that effect, but in shrink language, we need something like sexual variance, not sexual deviance.
Why do you need anything at all?
Well, we need something. There are still thousands of gay men in therapy across this country at the moment, and they need a diagnostic diagnosis mostly for insurance purposes.
Well, most of them sought therapy themselves, so it's not necessarily their homosexuality.
Right. I mean, yeah, they may have other things going on, but for some, it may be their homosexuality.
Well, doesn't that bring us to square one?
Not necessarily. See, we just need to be crafty with the wording around it, extend it, leave room for interpretation. Like, if it's of a natural variance, then we have to say that homosexuals experience distress, either because of society or because some may not really want to be gay.
I don't understand. Are we not drafting a resolution to delete it?
Yeah, I'm afraid they'll never go for outright deletion.
So what am I doing here?
Okay, calm down. I'm soliciting your help.
But you're telling me now that you're not willing to go all the way.
Oh, I am, but they won't.
Just make them. Aren't you the head of the name-calling committee?
You got to trust me here, all right? I know how the machine works. We have to do it slowly, you know. That way, you know, get everybody into it.
Oh, I'm disappointed.
Oh, please, don't be. Come on, this is a great step forward. We have to say that some men experience distress, right? 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 It's true. So, but then some, right, we neutralize it. We take the sting out of it.
Well, besides gays, some straight people experience distress around sex.
Yes, but sexual distress, that could be caused by rapists and abusers. It's too vague. They won't go for it. Sexual disturbance.
No disturbance.
No. Listen, we're going to take homosexuality out of the DSM and call it sexual orientation disturbances. Huh? Very democratic. Includes everyone. Some people, including heterosexuals, bisexuals, all sexuals, may be disturbed by their orientation. And if they are, they seek help, and there's their diagnosis.
I don't know any straights disturbed by their orientation.
Right, neither do I. But it could characteristically be possible. You know, who's ever disturbed by sex will help. You know, it doesn't matter who it is. Okay. So if they're, say, we'll call it ego-dystonic homosexuality.
Oh, you're good. Or ego-dystonic heterosexuality.
Or ego-dystonic asexuality. I love it. Strikes a nice balance. I mean, I'll have to present it before the committee, you know, and then it still has to be ratified by the executive board. But if they buy it, no more mental illness.
Really?
Really. And we're very lucky with the timing.
How so?
Well, Dr. Spiegel is now president-elect, and I have a feeling he's going to be very sympathetic, if you get my drift.
I can't believe I'm doing this here with you. You guys really do have an incredible amount of power. You get to say who's sane and who's mad. It turns out it's really just speculation.
Yeah, it's true. Who's really got the answers? No one. We just do the best we can.
Why are you doing this? Really?
Kindness, compassion?
See, that's not very scientific.
No, we live in an ignorant and immoral world. This is my way of helping a little.
Thank you.
You know there's going to be a huge backlash. Your struggle is just beginning. Even if or when it's out of the DSM, some shrinks could still choose to believe otherwise and you know, discriminate. It'll depend on their individual persecutory nature. So others will be more open to your humanity. It's all going to take time, probably a generation.
Well, at least it'll be out.
Though I should tell you, even if they ratify it, people like Socarides and Bieber, they'll put up quite a fight. They may want to take it to the full vote of the entire membership. Then it's out of our hands.
Amazing.
Ron takes a few paces to the window. He gazes out over Honolulu at night, allowing everything to sink in.
We were made sick by the stroke of the pen, and now we'll be cured overnight by the stroke of a pen. Science by a vote.
This is how it really works. Don't tell anyone.
A Judy Garland song rises and fades into disco tune to usher us into a new era. End of play. Would all the actors like to come back on camera for a bow? Don, you can join us. John, if you want to join us as well.
Don is going to be joining us. Yeah, bravo!
Bravo! And our playwright, Dahn.
Yes.
Yes, Dahn Hiuni, the playwright. John Coppola, the director. Excellent job, everybody.
Bravo!
All right.
Jonathan, did you want to pop back on?
Sure. I'm just popping long enough to thank everyone. Thank you, actors. Thank you, our fabulous playwright, our fabulous director, and thank you all for witnessing, whether you are witnessing in the Zoom room or whether you're one of the people who has been on Facebook. And with that, we thank you all for coming, and we bid you a wonderful rest of your Sunday, whether that's a number of hours here on the West Coast or maybe just a few if you are on the East Coast. So thank you again, and once more, feel free to check out the Alliance of Los Angeles Playwrights, and you will find the link in the chat. All right, thank you all. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.